from what we're just discussing in stories, I see that each person would then have a very, very different style of learning things, not just with respect to their personalities, but even the path that helps them grasp newer things, like try to assimilate different pieces
Yep.
and come to a certain understanding. So, could you talk to us a little more about these kind of learning traits and these kind of personality traits that come up because of these learning traits?
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked a little earlier about learning styles of intuitive and semi-intuitive.
Hmm.
Um, and there's really four levels. You have intuition level, you have learners, and you have non-learners. Uh, the intuitives and the semi-intuitives are, they always feel on the brink of something. And it's that psychological trait of openness that they're just so insatiably curious that as soon as they figure something out, they know that they want to figure the next thing out. They want to just keep getting better. So they're always in search of new knowledge and sharper perception.
Hmm.
Learners are people that are not necessarily in search of it, but if you get them in a classroom or in a training or in a conference, they are people who do pay attention. And they're like,
Hmm.
okay, I'm here. So there's some impetus for learning. We've officially begun the conference. We're going to teach you these three things, and they're going to kind of pay attention. Even within there, you can stratify it kind of like you do within the intuitives, because some learners are really like eager learners and they quickly trust the teacher or the experienced person. They quickly map the lessons to value in their life. So they're like, oh, if I did it that way, I can see how it would lead to a better outcome. Then
Hmm.
you kind of have more neutral people who are kind of a little more like, okay, a little more, they're not disengaged. And then you have what I would call resistant learners, who are the
Hmm.
people who are like, prove it to me. Where's the data? Where's the evidence? Where's the this? Show me an example. Give me a case study, or those types of things. And they're putting up a defense. They're kind of assuming
Hmm.
that the lesson isn't to be learned unless there's evidence that they approve of, right? Because you could have five different people and say, here's the evidence that supports this, and three of them jump on board and two of them are still left over. So it's like very personal what a resistant learner learns.
Hmm.
I find them to be the most frustrating people because, when you're in a field like I am, where you might be a decade further than this person, like I would rather make time for all the other learning styles. And I think that's what resistant learners don't realize is they're like, oh, and they congratulate you when you teach them something, which is always funny. They're like, yeah, see, you got me on that one. You taught me something. Not a lot of people get through my defenses. And they're like congratulating you for kind of getting over the hump, getting over the wall that they've built around their learning. And I just look at them like you're still getting the hierarchy of learner wrong, right? Like you're putting
Yeah.
yourself above your teacher, which is really absurd, and people who live that way, they learn the slowest. And then you do have
Hmm.
non-learners. And these non-learners are people that either emotionally or rationally have a strongly negative reaction to the learning. So if you're
Hmm.
saying, let's get a bunch of customer support representatives from a call center into a room and say, let's go through a bunch of the scripts and the call analytics from the last few months. Let's look at the stuff that went really well and the stuff that went really poorly. There's going to be some people in that room that when we talk about the stuff that went really poorly or really well, they're like, well, I didn't do any of that stuff, or I did that stuff, the stuff that you're saying. So you're calling me an idiot and you're calling me incompetent. They get super defensive and
Dramatic.
they refuse learning because of this massive emotional reaction, as opposed to kind of staying a little more calm, deciding whether they're going to be a learner and stuff like that. No amount of evidence is going to get them over this emotional or irrational reaction in that moment, at
Hmm.
least.
From what we're just discussing in stories, I see that each person would then have a very, very different style of learning things, not just with respect to their personalities, but even the path that helps them grasp newer things, like try to assimilate different pieces
Yep.
and come to a certain understanding. So, could you talk to us a little more about